DanceBlue is the ultimate love fest. It's a family. Every year you keep wondering, how can this get any better? It gets in your blood. Seeing that commitment, seeing that determination that we're going to not just make this organization bigger and better, but embrace the message of FTK. This is for the kids. For the kids began with one kid, my son, Jarrett Minear. This is the story of how Jarrett's desire to help others while fighting cancer himself inspired 10 years of DanceBlue. Jarrett always had this innate ability to make people feel better. And when he was diagnosed, even at 2.5, he immediately would want to reach out emotionally to other patients. And as he went through the years, he became more and more aware of the challenges that some of these kids faced. He had developed a secondary cancer, myelodysplasia, because of all the chemo and radiation he'd had, and he was 9 at the time. He was literally in his hospital room for 38 days. He could not leave the room. And he said, Mom, I've been thinking. I thought, oh boy, that's usually trouble. He said, I'm thinking about all those kids over there in the children's hospital that don't have all these visitors, and they don't have all these friends and their families, and they live far away, and I want to do something to help them. This is him sitting there with catheters coming out of both sides of his chest. He had just literally been at death's door with the transplant, and I'm thinking, you are not for real. You're sitting here thinking about these things while you're hooked up in here in the hospital watching the world outside the window. I said, what's your ID? And he said, well, you know how at the Hutchinson Institute, his first transplant, 4 Ewings, he said, those nice ladies came around with the little gifts for us. He said, I want to do something, but it's got to be bigger than that. And he came up with the business plan and started collecting donations. We cut the ribbon on March 23rd, 1999, and the rest is history.
Oh, I met him as a news reporter for a television station, and he was starting his joy cart.
Stuff, we've got a Nerf gun.
I was immediately taken with his enthusiasm and energy and the way he motivated people. I mean, I think he was only 9 years old at that time, and I think he saw himself as a motivational speaker.
The toy cart is not just about giving the children toys. It's mostly about having something for them to look forward to.
We showed it on the news that night, and people were gathered around the TV watching it.
He goes to about 40 rooms on each visit,
I'm doing okay.
giving young patients a brand new toy of their choice.
Here you go. I got the toy cart back again.
I noticed others in the newsroom were touched by it too, so I had no doubt that if this room full of hardened journalists was touched by this, that it wasn't reaching other people.
Hey, Christopher.
The thing that was neat about following Jarrett in the hospital when he was delivering the toys was that it was about so much more than the toys.
People would say, oh, you're that little boy that gives out toys. And he said, no, ma'am, I'm the little boy that gives out joy.
And I think that was one of the great legacies of the Joy Cart. It wasn't just a toy cart, it was like a visit that people looked forward to from someone their own age who had a lot of wisdom beyond his years.
As long as I can keep it together financially and mental-wise, I am going to keep the toy cart rolling.
This is so nice. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll see you next time.
So it was just an idea that captured everybody's attention. And he ended up being on the Rosie Show, I think, 5 times. He started meeting national politicians and celebrities. As I saw all this happening, I thought there's a book in this. And then I got to know Jarrett really well because I started to interview him personally. And I would go to the clinic as he was receiving his chemo treatments. And that's, when I really became close to him.
In honesty, we thought, well, this is another one of those wonderfully sweet ideas of his. And we thought, well, this will run its course and he'll move on to something else. Nope. That was 15 years ago, and that was on his list. In his final week, he had a list of things, and one of the things was that we had to promise that we would keep the Joy Card going.
He knew the word legacy. He was thinking about what his legacy was going to be. I don't know how many preteens even know what that word means, but he wanted to have something to be remembered by.
At the time Jarrett was being treated, we had state-of-the-art patient care, state-of-the-art doctors and nurses and staff, but the clinic was terrible.
Yeah, he would talk sometimes about how this place is kind of run down and this place needs to be fixed up and it's depressing in here and there's not room for people to visit me, or there's not, or not enough toys to help the kids break their boredom.
What Jarrett experienced as a patient himself and watched with his fellow patients as they were sitting on the floor getting chemotherapy had a big impact on him.
He really hoped someday they could make a better place.
In his final weeks, he said, I want you all to do something to try to help this.
We talked about what could we do to help make Jarrett's last wish come true.
And when we started that effort the day after he passed away, it turned into a new clinic at that time. And when that was finished, the ribbon was cut, and I said, there's more we can do. I know there's more we can be doing.
And that was when my daughter contacted me. Carolyn was a sophomore at Penn State University, and she had participated in their dance marathon. It's called FAWN, and it's the biggest and oldest one in the nation.
And she shared a video and shared what she had learned.
That was just a real key moment.
We looked at each other and said, this is it.
That's when we came up with a plan to visit with the major student organizations at UK.
It's still really funny because you think a couple of, older women having meetings, why are these students going to listen to us? But quite a few students said, oh my gosh, I saw Jarrett on television when there were stories about the Joy Card. And that puts a face to this, and I really want to be a part of this. And the rest is history.
The key to DanceBlue is that the students then took it all on their backs.
They genuinely knew this was going to work.
And Jennifer and I became cheerleaders and not work leaders. And they took it on.
This is not some organization that paid adults are standing in the background pulling the strings. This is a student-run organization.
Growing from just a few dancers and a few student organizations to being sort of the thing to be in every year.
It's the culmination of a year's worth of effort to raise money and awareness for the children that are treated at Kentucky Children's Hospital and Kentucky Clinic for various cancers.
It's just inspirational for everybody. And I know, a lot of the students who participate didn't know who Jarrett was, but they've come to know other patients by volunteering or going through the clinic. And it's just, it gives you a lot of hope.
To see the students treat these patients like rock stars. Every single child that has gotten up there for every single DanceBlue, they are absolutely, completely embraced by that crowd.
Nobody's at this event because they have to be here. They want to be here. None of them see it as a job or an obligation or a chore. They see it as an honor and a privilege.
The amount of funds it provides every year for the cancer clinic changes the lives of those families.
UK's pediatric oncology program is continuing to become cutting edge, setting the tone for the fact that you can't just treat the patient. You are treating the entire family, the entire dynamic of the situation.
It certainly has changed the world in Kentucky of pediatric cancer.
There will be hundreds and hundreds of more families that are going to come through those doors. And those kids and those families deserve the best.
it definitely honors Jarrett's life, what's being done through DanceBlue and what these students do, not just this one weekend, but throughout the year.
It lets the patients and the families know, and this is very similar to Jarrett's purpose with Jarrett's Joy Card. It lets these patients and their families know that these students who may not even know them, may never see them again, but they came together and served together to help make these kids and their families' lives better.
I can't think of a better way to honor Jarrett.
It's just the ideal embodiment of what he meant.
You know, I wish Jarrett could be there, but I know he's there. It is so heartwarming to see that people still remember him, because quite honestly, the worst fear of a parent when you lose your child is that they're going to be forgotten because they were here for such a short time. However, Jarrett liked to think that he was a voice for a lot of those children and a person that could take the dreams and hopes of other kids and put them into action. It wasn't about Jarrett, and it's still not just about Jarrett. It's a representation of all of these kids that go through so many things at such a young age and are faced with just sometimes insurmountable challenges, medically, physically, you name it, and giving them a voice, and that's what we try to continue.